The following is a Big Sioux Media production.
Welcome to this week's edition of People of Dell Rapids. Today we are joined by probably one of the busiest guys in Dell Rapids this week for sure, with Justin Weiland, the city administrator. Thanks for joining us here this week on the People of Dell Rapids, Justin.
Thanks, Lee, and thanks to Big Sioux Media for everything you do, keeping our community informed. I really appreciate Matt and yourself for everything you've provided over the years. Thank you.
So there's so much to cover, and we will cover as much as we possibly can. But I want to start with some things that probably been glossed over here recently because of COVID-19 and other things. There's some big infrastructure projects going on in the city that people might not know or remember is going on. Let's start first with the East Side infrastructure project with 7th Street and 6th Street and all of that. They're starting phase 2 this summer, correct?
Correct. Yeah. If you've driven on the east side of town, you can see that it's a little bit difficult to get around. 7th Street is completely torn up. Garfield East. That is the first stage for this summer. That is going to be a lengthy process to get water and sewer laid across 7th Street because of the bedrock that is so close to the ground there. So they will be blasting and picking and thank you to everyone that lives along 7th Street. They are my neighbors. I do live along 7th Street too, and so I can attest to the amount of noise and disruption that everyone is having to go through this summer. So please be patient with the contractors and us, and reach out to us too if you see issues with access to your property. Everyone's having to access their mail in a different location, and so it definitely disrupts normal everyday life in that area. Following the completion of the 7th Street portion, they'll be moving down to 5th Street and 4th Street as well, everything east of Garfield. So that should all be wrapped up by the end of the summer, is the hope, if the contractor can keep their people healthy and keep on schedule. It will be a nice project to be completed. I know that I've seen some confusion about how far east we're going on 7th Street. The first section is between Beach and Garfield. We're also replacing the section between Beach and the railroad track as you continue east as well. That stayed open right now, so trucks can get in and access the quarry. The truck route too, I've seen some confusion about the truck route. The truck route's now on 4th Street, not 7th Street. And the new truck route that the city established within the last year, using Quartzsite Avenue and Garfield to bypass downtown, those trucks aren't able to make the turn at 4th and Garfield. So the old truck route, or what's considered the secondary truck route now, is accessible to all trucks. That's the 3rd Street and then up to 4th Street truck route. So just to clarify some of those questions that have been out there in the public.
So there's that project.
Yep.
15th Street, trying to get some of those bumps and bubbles out of 15th Street on the north side of town there, especially from 77 where it connects. That's another project that the city's going to tackle here.
Yes. The original schedule was to wait until school was out. So obviously with school not in session, the concrete contractor is going to be moving up to 15th Street and replacing some of those areas that have experienced settlement over the last 7 or 8 years since that project was completed. So there'll be some disruptions to traffic on 15th Street. Traffic will be open. You'll be able to get through there. You just might experience some delays trying to circumvent wherever the contractor is replacing the concrete.
And then the third, but not least of the projects, is connecting all the bike path areas going all the way out to the dam then.
Yeah, that's a continuation project from last year. The weather put a damper on being able to get that completed. It'd be nice to have that open this year, obviously, with everybody accessing our trail system. But the contractor is down there. He's going to complete the links between the where the trail is poured now off of Highway 115, as well as some internal trail within that dam site area park, which has become a very popular place for fishing and recreation during this COVID time for people to get out and try to get some fresh air, which makes us extremely happy. It's really, that dam area is a undiscovered little kind of gem area in our community. A lot of area to explore, just beautiful natural landscape. So invite people to go down there and access that area. And that's why this trail is being accessed into there, to really invite the public back into that nice little park that the city has.
So with that said, you brought up that area being able to be used during COVID-19. Let's get some misconceptions about what is and what isn't allowed here in the city as of today with COVID-19. Parks and trails are still open. It's
Yes.
the playgrounds and the courts and the ball fields that are off limits, correct?
That's correct, Lee. We did post some signage that stipulates that. I understand, you see a closed sign, and so it can be automatically interpreted that everything was closed. No, yeah, the open spaces, the trail system is open. Everyone, when it was closed, we encouraged to keep the 6 feet separation, social distancing guidelines, everything in place. The courts and the playgrounds were contact points that the city felt that there was some liability associated with having those open, kids playing on playgrounds, young adults going and playing basketball with shirts off. It's such a physical contact sport. I think it was really to send a message. I can visualize, Lee, in the next few days, week or so, lessening some of those restrictions for the playgrounds, the courts, the ball fields. I think that it sounds like the city of Sioux Falls is going to be making some moves in that direction. And so we're going to be watching that closely. I think this is going to go further into our discussion here about COVID-19 and, the governor's, what she has put out as her message of, personal responsibility being a key factor in all of this, that, all of the guidelines that have been established by the CDC and social distancing still need to be adhered to, but some of the rules and regulations are going to be, minimally taken away over time, with the hope and trust in the public that they're going to continue to obey those guidelines as we move forward, trying to get back to this new normal.
So let's back up to Tuesday. The governor came out and came up with her back to normal plan, as it's been called. When that came out and she rescinded 2012, it kind of took away all those restrictions to an extent, where she said, we still want you to be safe and be smart, but we're not going to tell you how to do that. And they put it back onto the city. How difficult is it for the city now to come out and say, well, we still want to do this and we still want to do that, even though the governor has said, well, it's your decision?
Yeah. I think the governor's approach is that, as cities, we're always fighting and asking for local control. Mm-hmm. So at the same point, that we're kind of begging for some guidance, we do want our local control too. So the governor, to her acknowledgement, is providing us that local control. So we're adapting. We're trying to use the data and what's available to us, which, by the way, isn't a lot of information that you or anyone in the public has the ability to access. We don't have any inside information. The number of cases in Dell Rapids, we do not know that, do not have access to that information. I mean, there's definitely some stress associated with trying to figure out what is best for our community, for each community. As in my position, we are collaborating with Minnehaha County Emergency Management and the information and the guidance that they have. we are collaborating with the Emergency Operations Center in Sioux Falls, and all of the information that they have, and the they're in close touch with Avera and Sanford, and getting the information on hospital bed availability and where they're at with the surge and everything of that nature. So those are helping inform our decisions. The ordinance that the city put in place initially that went into effect on April 8th was geared at gathering locations that weren't deemed, quote unquote, essential. And that was bars, restaurants, entertainment venues, gyms, right? And that was with guidance from Governor Noem's Executive Order 2020-12. And that was to limit patrons to 10 or less. In our community, the business community had stepped up prior to our April 8th ordinance and really had put measures in place on their own voluntarily. As the weeks went by, I think the sentiment started to grow that this is a difficult situation for our businesses in the community. At our meeting on April 20th, we heard from a few of those local businesses, and the council directed myself, the mayor, to go and meet with these businesses, listen to them, hear out what type of measures and procedures and plan that they had in place, as they were really looking at having the ability to allow more patrons into their establishments and get their businesses back up and running, which is completely understandable. And so we had that meeting. It was a positive meeting. It showed to the city that they were taking it seriously. They weren't going to just open up their businesses and go back to normal, that they were going to have measures in place. So that was Friday of April, April 24th. Looking at my calendar over here, yeah. And that was positive. So over the weekend, myself, our city attorney, Dean Hammer, began putting together a modified ordinance that started to lessen restrictions on the businesses. So we were ready to go for a special meeting, which was held last evening on Wednesday, the 29th. But Tuesday, the 28th, the governor came out with her new executive order. The ordinance that we had looked at really didn't jive legally with Governor Noem's new executive order. Therefore, we took Wednesday and adapted that ordinance. And the ordinance that has had a first reading as of yesterday evening is an ordinance that allows businesses to have patrons up to 50% of their occupancy rates as established by the building code.
Okay.
It also emphasizes this notion of personal responsibility. And so there isn't requirements to wear masks. It's highly encouraged. There isn't a legal requirement where the city is going to be the police in making sure that tables and bar stools and everything is set 6 feet apart. It's highly encouraged. Several of those measures that the city is you just have to be realistic about actual enforcement of those type of measures. So this ordinance, we had a first reading, had a good discussion last evening. This ordinance was based off of Rapid City, which they adopted and went into place this week, and seems to be working effectively in Rapid City at this time. Really, each community is interpreting the executive order. We might see changes between now and Monday. I'm not sure. It's a day-by-day type situation, Lee. But at this point, we feel like we've tried to reach a middle ground to allow these businesses to have additional patrons over the 10 within reason, because the economy does need to get going again, taking into consideration that COVID-19 isn't going to go anywhere, and that people understand that they have responsibilities in being safe. And I think that message has been sent very clear to everyone. And so with that, we feel that this would be a good bridge before going. It's not an all or nothing type situation. Minnesota went to an all out shutdown of their businesses. South Dakota never did that. We've been in this middle ground, but also going to just no regulations and just allowing, a bar to be completely full probably isn't the best approach, since COVID is still here, and so it's kind of a lessening of restrictions approach.
So one of the things that was talked about in the press conference was, as long as we continue on a 14-day decline, which we were trending at, this doesn't, the way the ordinance is written right now for the city of Dell Rapids, and we're talking just the city of Dell Rapids, is that stipulation in that ordinance, or is it one of those things where we're just going to have to wait and see if there's a big outbreak in Dells, we may have to shut things back down? Or is there something to say, okay, we have a spike for 5 days, we're going to shut everybody down?
Matt Larson with Big Sioux Media brought this point up to the city council last evening, and I think it is a very good point. I'll have to think about that a little bit more, Lee. We are bound by the state statutes in ordinance adoption. Really what we're doing as far as having a meeting on a Wednesday for a first reading, a second meeting on a Monday, and then a publication on that following Wednesday is a week period of time. That is as quick as possible for us to put in regulations statutorily. So we're trying to do this as efficiently as possible. If there is an outbreak in this thing with COVID, is that a week period of time is you're almost too late by that point to put the regulations in. That spread could be all over the place at that point. So I think that's something we might need to look at, maybe having some emergency type clauses or measures put into place. There was I think a podcast or something that I listened to recently that kind of talked about how this is going to roll out over the course of time until we see a vaccination in place, and equated it to doing a dance. The DJ is on, everyone's allowed to go out into the dance floor, but if things start to heat up again, the DJ might have to be shut down and everybody might have to come off the dance floor again. Who knows if that's going to happen? Hopefully we can ease into this and not have to put stricter regulations into place again. Nobody knows that has a crystal ball on that.
So when we talk about this, the soonest the businesses will be able to go back to the 50% occupancy will be next Wednesday, correct? That will be the soonest.
Assuming that the city council passes a second reading of the ordinance on Monday. With all of this, everything is day by day. Things seem to be changing, and it's the way it's been the last 6 weeks. The city of Sioux Falls announced this morning that they are going to be having a press conference at 10:30, with Mayor Tenhaken, and will be unveiling their plan to slowly reopen. So we'll be watching that intently to see if there's anything that we might need to do to adapt our ordinance to be, we really kind of want to be in line with Sioux Falls and work as a region on this. They did not have anything available for us to review prior to our meeting last Wednesday or last evening on Wednesday evening. And so we felt it was necessary to get our process moved along to slowly start to reopen because our business community has asked us to move in that direction.
So last night's reading was for private businesses. Let's talk about the city itself and the public land, the parks, the pools, the ball diamonds. But let's first talk with city offices. Will the city office follow that? Will you reopen city offices on Wednesday? Not that they're closed, but will you reopen the doors to the city offices Wednesday then? or is there a plan put in place for your staff come
Our
Wednesday?
yeah, let me just be clear that city offices, as the door has been locked to the public, all of the city services that we offer, from building permits to been in a lot of dog tags because everyone's getting new pets, and golf cart licenses and those little things, paying your utility bills. All of that is still happening. We have some individuals in the city working remotely. They're also coming into the office for things that they need to be able to handle on a daily basis. So everything that the city hall does is still in complete operation. We have not declined any of our services at this time. I can't answer when City Hall is going to open doors. I don't think it will be next week, Lee. We're going to continue to analyze that, and really kind of follow the guidelines of what other communities are thinking along those lines as well. We're still, I'd say, in the kind of the lion's den hotspot of this COVID outbreak. So the comfort level with opening our doors to our employees and the public coming in, I wouldn't say is 100% there yet. But we're a little different than a private business that, and we want to give them that option,
Yep.
right? So I would say with the library has had its doors closed as well. They're starting to think about and work on measures to slowly begin to offer more additional services. There hasn't been dates set on when they plan on opening their doors again. Those discussions are going to continue. I know a big question for the community is the parks. I would anticipate within the next few days, week, that we'll start loosening some of those restrictions, as we talked about earlier, on the playgrounds and courts. Ball fields, I know that the Baseball Association and the Softball Association are going to be having discussions about what to do with their seasons. It sounds like the governor is stating that she feels that ball games should be able to be played this summer. And so I would anticipate that the ball fields will be allowed to be opened for organized activities. In the new ordinance, that responsibility for making that decision has been placed upon the mayor. And so, the mayor will be analyzing that as time goes by here, and working directly and collaborating and engaging with those organizations that use our facilities. Big questions about cootie days, quarry days, access to the park for big gatherings. I don't think determinations have been made about that yet, Lee. As of now, those events are still planned. I think the chamber is working on a contingency plan for cootie days, or for quarry days, excuse me, and cootie days is still on, as I know, but I think that there's some question whether or not the carnival will be making its way from Texas up to our region. So we're going to continue working with the Legion on that. We'll be having some additional discussion with the city council on Monday about some of those questions. The elephant in the room, I think, is the pool. A lot of questions regarding the pool. Is that okay if I talk about that now?
You go right ahead. I would love that.
All right. There are several factors being considered with the pool for decisions. We'll be having a discussion about that at our meeting on Monday as well, and we would take any feedback from the public, what you think, what the public thinks about that. Really, we understand the important role the pool plays in the community. I have a 4 and a 9-year-old. I understand how important that is to take my kids down to the pool every summer. It's just a great place to be. We're also, though, you have to kind of really consider some of the operational logistics during a time like this. One thing to note is that it takes several weeks to get the pool up and running. We haven't started filling it yet. So, there's that to be considered. The employment base for our pool is mainly high school or early kind of college aged individuals. So that needs to be considered. We actually didn't receive enough applications, lifeguard applications. So if we do open, we're going to definitely need to go and do a push in the community to get some more applications. We usually hire about 12 lifeguards, and we only received 7 lifeguard applications at this time. As far as lifeguards are concerned, those lifeguards need to be certified. The Red Cross is not doing certifications right now until June. And that's a few week program to get certified. So realistically, if we talk about this throughout our region and the Hartford, Brandon, Sioux Falls, Lenox, everybody's having these conversations, that it might be hard to open before July 1st because we're waiting on lifeguards to be able to get certified. That's something that needs to be considered, and we're working on that. There is some Red Cross is allowing for some 90-day extensions for those that already have certifications, but a lot of the applications this year, we don't have certified lifeguards coming back. That's just something operationally too. And kind of getting into the weeds here, Lee, but the CARES Act provides FMLA and unemployment to all seasonal type employees. So if we had to shut down in the middle of the summer because there was a uptick in cases, or one of the individuals at the pool happened to get sick, there's liability with the city for FMLA, unemployment, everything of that nature. So that's kind of a budgetary item that we need to explore and consider. Budget-wise as well, the city is not going to be collecting the same amount of sales tax revenue that we're used to during a downturn, obviously. The Department of Revenue is telling us to expect between 30 and 40% loss in our sales tax. We haven't seen our numbers for April yet. We'll be monitoring those closely. But we anticipate, the city collects around $100,000 a month in sales tax. So 30% loss is $30,000. The pool itself is, as everyone knows, is not a moneymaker. We generally in the red about $90,000 a year when you're operating the pool, paying employees, and that's considering revenue that we receive for swimming lessons and fees and everything. So there's budget considerations to be had there that I think the council is going to need to think hard about as well. There's also some CDC guidelines out there right now on operating public pools. And there's some really strict guidelines that we just have to think, how is it possible for us to maintain 6 feet distance of space of little kids? We might have to clamp down on the population that comes into the pool. It states that you should be wiping down touch surfaces every 10 to 20 minutes. So that's all of your ladders and railings and bathrooms. So some of those things, like operationally, we're looking at considering. So hopefully the public has an understanding of maybe the questions that we're trying to answer. I understand the argument. If you don't feel comfortable going to the pool, don't go. It's a good argument, but it doesn't take into consideration what we're actually going to have to do at the pool to have it open to the public, during a time like this.
That we covered a lot here in a short amount of time. I want to thank you for joining us. I just want to put this out there to anybody that's watching before next Monday. And I don't like to assume a lot, but I would guess that the council meeting will be a Zoom meeting again Monday night. And that
Yes.
link will be on the Facebook page again for
Yep,
people that
Facebook
want.
and our city website. Yes, yes.
So
So
people, go ahead.
yeah, people access through Zoom. What I recommend is if you want to participate in the meeting via comments or making any statements, you log in through the Zoom application. If you just intend to watch the meeting, that is also being live streamed on the city website, on the agenda and minutes and video page. So if you're just going to watch, tune in, it's probably a better experience to go to the website and watch it. If you intend to listen in, comment, comments that you want read publicly and that you would like to speak to any of the issues, access through Zoom. So those are kind of the two options for the public.
That's great. So we will again want to thank you, Justin. We look forward to Mondays. Look at Big Sioux Media's Facebook page and Twitter accounts, as we will post stories after Monday night with a synopsis of that. Justin, I'd like to bring you back when this is all kind of said and done, and we can really talk about future plans and the state of the city and things like that. But I know you've got a lot going on right now, so we don't want to take a ton of your time.
No, thanks for the opportunity. It's a good way to get out there to folks. So really appreciate both you and Matt doing this for the community. I know the school district has been communicating in this way, and I know Summer and I both appreciate it. And I just want to also state in closing here, that we're really thankful of the leadership mayor and the city council has had for staff throughout this. Thankful to the business community, thankful to the community for really seemingly having the common sense approaches throughout the community. If it's at the grocery store or the hardware store, we need to continue down this route of social distancing and paying attention to our neighbors and following these CDC guidelines. They're not going away when we put an ordinance in place. If you go down to the bar or a restaurant, please keep these in mind. That personal responsibility and protecting our community. It's the older folks and the vulnerable that are being affected by this most. And really, I mean, we're relying on the rumor mill just like everyone else. That rumor mill is pretty quiet as it relates to cases in our community. I fully anticipate that we will see a spike in our community in the next few weeks. We aren't through this by any means, and I think that message needs to be made clear to everyone.
That is City Administrator Justin Weiland. My name is Lee Palmer. Thank you for joining us here on our People of Dell's podcast. Look for our next podcast next week. Again, City Council meeting on Monday. Go to the city's website to access it, or the Zoom account if you'd like to participate. Again, Justin, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lee.